All right, yes, indeed. We'll be looking at some of those matters and, of course, sundry issues has to do with governance, political participation of you and I and everybody else, as well as some resolutions yesterday. Let's start from Abuja with that one. Good morning, Marpa.
Good morning, Chamberlain, and good morning to our viewers. Welcome to our Abuja studios, and we have this morning for you here in our studio Professor Vitalis Ajumbe, who's an APC chieftain and also former leader of ANPP, former commissioner for information in Imo State. Prof, you're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, the southern governors have kept up their meeting. Yesterday they met in Enugu, and that was the outcome. I mean, Enugu neighboring Imo State, and that was the outcome which Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State read out. He seems to be the one reading the communique most times. The southern governors have maintained a template of some sort, enacting anti-open grazing laws. They agreed amongst themselves that that's something that they should all pass, and it was seen that a lot of them have met up with that deadline. And also, we also see their demand that the presidency of the country should come to the southern zone come 2023. As one from the south yourself, does it make you, I don't know, how do you read, I think that's the question I should ask, how do you read the unitary stance of the southern governors despite party affiliation?
Well, that's a good development, and there's nothing wrong about it. It means that they're all coming together for a purpose, and that purpose, I believe, is to help develop Nigeria. We are gone to the position where we think Nigeria and not actually thinking whether you are from south, east, west, or north. So the unity of Nigeria is paramount.
They continue to emphasize that. I mean, at every meeting, because indeed, when you do say that it doesn't matter whether you're from south, east, west, or north, the fact that the governors have come together under, a forum called Southern Governors, it would seem that they have created a dichotomy of some sort. I mean, it could give that impression. But every time they come around, they always say that they continue to reaffirm their faith in the unity of Nigeria and in the indivisibility of the country. I don't know, does that stand out for you?
Well, the unity of Nigeria, just as I said before, is paramount, irrespective of what they say. It can be saying something different. You want the unity of Nigeria, and then you want a division of sorts. If you go to America,
you think they're asking for a division?
Well, if the federal is saying that this is their position, everybody should align with that position. I hope you understand what I'm talking about.
No, I'm afraid
If
not.
the federal says this is what we want, that will benefit the entire Nigerian, a section of the country should not think otherwise.
Okay, can you give an instance of what you're talking about?
Okay, let's go to the issue of presidency come 2023. It is very clear in the Constitution of Nigeria that Nigeria, there won't be any zoning. And I don't think there's where it is written in the constitution of any political party where the presidency should be zoned or the presidency should be rotated. Nigerian constitution does not provide for...
It is written in the constitution of the PDP.
But it's not written in the constitution of some political parties.
It is true that it is not written in the constitution
and it's not
of
written,
the APC.
It's not written in the constitution of Nigeria.
But it is in the constitution of the PDP.
But it's not written in the constitution of Nigeria.
It is true.
Which is, Nigerian constitution is paramount. Every right falls under.
What has the federal government said anything with respect to that?
Federal government has nothing to say about that because it is not in the constitution. Rotation of presidency is not in the constitution. Let me tell you, I don't care where the president comes from. And this is the mistake we make. I'm from the south. You cannot be sleeping and somebody will wake you up to come and have a breakfast. He must tell us that you are hungry and come out and ask for your food.
Isn't that what the southern governors are doing?
Good. Now let me go straight to what I mean. What efforts have they made to make this happen? You know, democracy is all about people, the majority. That's one thing all of us are faced to understand is people. What will the people say? And the people say that people make their decision by their votes. That's the people. And when you say, give me president is from my zone, or the governor is from my zone when they come to senatorial zones, what efforts have you done to mobilize their people? And that will help you to actualize that. Take, for example, INEC is doing voter registration. And it's going on very well in the north. How many of them are doing it in the south? That's another thing. Because the only way to do that is by popular votes. I want to advise our people.
When you say popular vote,
yes,
it should not be popular vote within the parties. It will be popular vote when it comes to the electorate.
Like my party, APC. We don't have that enshrined in our constitution that presidency will be zoned. And I've never seen it in our constitution.
It is true that in the constitution of the APC, it is not in the party's constitution. However, there's what they call a gentleman's agreement. There's also what they call, a matter. Let me finish, sir.
Yes.
There's also what they call a matter of tradition. That oftentimes, it is taken for granted that if the presidency has been in the north for how many years, it should also come to the south for how many years. And you are from the southeast of the country. You have heard the agitations of southeasterners asking for the presidency to come to their region because they believe that these kinds of things encourage inclusivity. You don't agree?
Listen, let me tell you, I'm not against a southerner or southeasterner becoming a president, but we have to work for it. It's what Nigeria has grown beyond this. We copied a democracy from America. In America, there's nothing like zoning in America. President George Bush, when he was the president of America, 2 of his children were governors here and there. And thereafter, one of his children became the president of America. I don't care where the president comes from. The only thing I want, and I want Nigerians to understand that we need a president that will give us good governance. Not a president of North Central, North East, South East, South, and whatever. That is not what we want. And besides, power is not given, power is taken. In the democratic setting, power is taken. You don't just say because it's our own turn, and then you will not relax. You will not mobilize our people to go and register. Those who will help to give you the power. You don't mobilize. It's the Igbos that truly define democracy. I'm an Igbo man. An Igbo says ndorondoro chichi. That's struggle for power. That's the definition of democracy in Igbo. Ndorondoro chichi. It is not give me power. It's not nyino chichi. That's give me power. That which means you have to struggle to work for it.
Okay.
So the bottom line is that we want a president, irrespective of where he comes from, whether South or South, who will give us good governance. That's what we need.
Okay, let's flip this to Lagos now, where I believe they have another guest, Chamberlain.
Well, yes, indeed. We've got Mr. Akin Oshutokun, who's a former DG of NAN and a former spokesperson for the Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, clearly, this decision by southern governors that the 2023 presidency be zoned to the south, not going down well with our guest in Abuja. What do you think of it?
Well, the guest was speaking as if we're in an ideal situation in which you can take anything for granted. Look, zone election in Nigeria and the principle of zoning has gone beyond just an election to become a conflict and crisis resolution mechanism. In the long-term perspective, if Nigeria remains together, it will be one of those elements that was used for nation building. If an skewed, it's not just a legal or constitutional. Citing America, America has evolved so many years under the present position. But for us to be speaking in abstract, it is the context of Nigerian politics that makes it a necessary element of nation building. Now, if you want to go to specifics, if you see the voter population in Nigeria today, right, it's so lopsided and skewed. Many people doubt those figures. That if you don't want a situation in which, let's say, 80%, the North can determine who becomes the president, on its, by just, the sheer volume of votes. When you find yourself in that kind of situation, right, it will be your own contribution to zoning that, look, okay, even though I have this, this favors me, let me exercise restraint. We hear people talking about, getting together or being your brother's keeper. Look, it is the same principle behind the federal character principle, in the public service, in which, positions are not strictly based on merit or the law, right? There's no Nigerian law that says there's a federal character commission, of course there is. But again, it is a principle where if it conflicts, you can test it in the court. That maybe, it conflicts with your rights to be, if you are being denied a position on the basis of where you come from. That's a negative interpretation of it. What it means it's essentially the same, right? It's geopolitical balance. It's something that it is higher than the kind of legalistic or power politics definition that your guest in Abuja was making it out to be. It is part of this. Over time, there will be no need for it.
But at the moment, right?
Look at,
pardon me, if you can hear me. At the moment, it's not usually that straightforward because, when they still get to their political parties, who knows? We don't know what kind of consideration they will give to this position from Southern government.
No, I agree with you.
It may go either way.
I may, but we are making a recommendation. I'm not in a position to dictate to any political party that is to zone. We are just making a recommendation where we're saying, okay, strictly from my own speaking, from my own, for me, as a student of power and politics of Nigeria, right now, will you describe the situation in Nigeria today as politically the best? And if you look at the arguments people are making, it's on this basis of lopsidedness, kind of inequity. And so when people, it is not as if you are taking everything for granted. We are not in a textbook situation, a democracy textbook, situation in Nigeria. We are in the thick. I think the crisis we have today probably is worse than maybe even 1999, when this idea of zoning became, and it has helped the country to stabilize. That's another factor you have to take into consideration. This thing that it has left Nigeria. Okay, you might imagine a situation in 2007 that another Yoruba man or Igbo or whatever becomes the president after Obasanjo. Was that conceivable in the circumstances of 2007? We have a crisis situation on our hands, deeply, almost on a daily basis. So you've got to respond to that context. And one of the ways you can do so, of course, is this idea of zoning. Nigeria more or less has attained a consensus. What we need is a consensus, what you call the moral majority.
Okay, Mr. Oshotoku,
this is the right thing to do.
Right, pardon me, for you and perhaps others, what are the irrefutable facts or factors that you consider and you say for equity, justice, fairness, and the rest, this should come to the South? What are those factors you look at? What are those figures, data that you look at and say, well, clearly this should come to the South?
Well, you know, I'm not sure I understand what you are, but let me attempt to a response to what I believe you are saying. Now, if the constituency, in any case, as I said, we have even seen it in our experience. If you look at the kind of controversy that was generated when President Yar'Adua prematurely, left office, by reason of death, there were people in the North, almost every member of the political elite in the North, including Vice President Atiku, IBB, Adamu Chiroma, and everybody, was saying that it should revert back to the North, that it is the turn of the North for it to happen. Now, there were speculations again, that the crisis that docked, the presidency of Jonathan had to do with the fact that the presidency was, reverted to the South unexpectedly, right? So this is something, so you have every indication that the purpose that you want Zona to achieve is actually a process that is higher, than strict adherence to, textbook democracy or whatever. In the concrete situation of Nigeria today, in our empirical, experience, we have found out the utility of zoning, right? It has made the argument for itself. So there's no need to pontificate about saying, no, zoning lets people go and, you might, okay, like I said, we might as well throw away the federal character principle or geopolitical quota principle and say, look, let everybody go and fight it out on the basis of merit, right? You know what will result from that. So that is a similar situation, with the politics of the country. So that is essential. It's an argument. I marvel at times when I hear this kind of opposition. This argument is self-evident. We are not talking theory, right? It is what we are grappling with on a daily basis, right? It has helped the country to stabilize. It was the reason why President Jonathan was able to, cede or transfer power to, when he lost the election. So we have seen that it has been demonstrated how we have seen it. Now, on top of that, more crises, more conflict scenarios have been imposed on the Nigerian polity that require a response from us politically. And you have that instrument,
Okay. All right, Mr. Oshotoku.
This is one of the ways.
Yeah, just a minute. Let me, get Professor to respond to some of the issues that you've raised. So, Prof, you heard him there says for equity, fairness, and justice. They're not talking about the Constitution, and that what we have is not an ideal situation, which he says is clear for all to see.
Well, actually, let me respond because I listened to him. He's talking about equity. If you say equity has to do with equilibrium. Now, let's go back to that is equity. In this political dispensation, this new democratic dispensation that started in 1999, if you count the number of years the South has ruled Nigeria, you say 8 years of Obasanjo and 6 years of Jonathan. And by the time President Buhari will be existing, he would have taken 10 years. So let's keep equity aside. because the South has ruled for 14 years, and the North, by the end of Buhari's tenure, would have ruled for 10 years. So let's keep equity aside. So equity cannot come in here. But sentimentally, if you're not talking of sentiment, let us give this way, let us give this. You have to work for it. There's no way power will be given to you if you don't work for it. Our southern governors should go home and mobilize southerners to register, so that let us have more votes than the North, or let us have at least 50% of the votes that are coming from the North, and then the next you now negotiate, and that is where I stand. And I also want to say, and say it again, that power is not given. What do you have on table? What is your manifesto? So let us market our manifesto.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. The guest in Lagos did say that this rotation, which the southern governors seem to be asking for, is something that has now evolved into a conflict resolution tool. Do you agree with him?
No. He did mention Obasanjo. Obasanjo came into power not by zoning. The military made it possible for Obasanjo to even his people did not vote for him. But Obasanjo came into power through the powers, through the fiat of the military. And we don't have that military, and we don't want to expect that military. The only power that we have is our voting power.
Okay, so let me put it like this, because we know that indeed Obasanjo was asked by the military to, to present himself on the ticket of the PDP. That is true. However, because of the sentiment at the time, and because people will say that they also took the sentiment prevailing at the time following the death of MKO Abiola, and it was seen that that was taken into cognizance when two southern presidential candidates were presented in 1999. You don't think that was an issue?
I don't think that was an issue. The military did what they did because they had the fiat power. They can create state. They can do any other thing.
Why do you think they then
even appointing who becomes what?
Why do you think they then picked a candidate from the South?
They decided to do so.
They could have picked anybody from the North.
They wanted the military, a former military man, who will give them soft landing.
Last we checked, President Buhari was a military man.
I said they wanted a military. President Buhari, as at that time, did not show interest to run for president. And they wanted a military man who would give them soft landing. And they found that in Obasanjo. Then Obasanjo now started. Let me tell you, check the history of Nigeria. There hasn't been a time a president emerged based on zoning. No. President Buhari is not here today based on zoning. When he contested in 2011, of course, others contested. I know my friend Chekwa Sokori contested. He's from Southeast. I know other from the Moalo contested.
The point about there's this rotation now being a tool of conflict resolution is the point I'm trying to stay on. The fact that in 1999 there was sentiment of a feeling of being hurt and what have you, and people explain that part of the reason why we saw the emergence of President Obasanjo and the fact that major candidates on the ballot, at least they are front runners in most elections. The front runners in that particular election were candidates from the South. That was on the one hand. When President Obasanjo finished his 8-year tenure, for 2 terms, the sentiment was equally strong, even though it was also written in the constitution of the PDP, that it was going to go to the North. Hence, we saw the presentation of late President Yerodua on the ticket. So when you now say, and we saw the almost constitutional crisis that the country was thrown into with the emergence of President Jonathan when he was going to take over as acting president, because sentiments were equally strong that he couldn't take over because the North was yet to finish their tenure. So when you say that it doesn't matter where the president is from. Aren't you just running away, playing ostrich with our history?
No, not really. Yeah, you mentioned Jonathan here. That there was people were saying that Yaradua died. But Jonathan ran for his first term and won. Was that based on zoning? He ran his first term and won.
Let's not smother. No, sir. Let us not smother over the constitutional crisis which that caused. The sentiment at the time, the prevailing sentiment at the time, nearly cost this country. And I'm sure that you were in the country at the time. Don't gloss over it. I think it's important for you to acknowledge it, explain it, and then you can move on to your point.
No, let me tell you. If we start zoning will go down even to the church. Maybe you don't know. Okay, is zoned to A. And the A will say, okay, it is supposed to be to my state. And then when it's given to that state, the state will now say, people will now ask, is he a Catholic, or is he Anglican, or is he a Pentecostal? It goes to that way. And then if it's in any of these organizations, religious organization, they will ask, which community does he belong in that church? Is he a knight of St. this or knight of St.
I'd like to know.
So let's not jettison zoning.
Because this is about
and
politics.
Give us Nigeria.
This is about
a president that will serve Nigeria.
This is about politics, and oftentimes, I don't know. I was speaking with someone recently, a politician from the southeast of the country, and he was saying that perhaps Nigeria can learn a thing or two from how the southeasterners have been able to manage their politics. That many states in the southeast have adopted this rotational zoning of the governorship seat. In some states where there had been complaints about how, the governorship seat had not gone round, they've taken that into cognizance and distributed it amongst the 3 senatorial districts.
I'm from Imo State.
Yes, that has not prevailed in your own state.
Good. So
I'm asking.
I will only give you an example with something that is close to me. I'm from Imo State. It has never happened in Imo State.
Well, you're also from the southeast. You haven't
seen
you haven't seen the example in other neighboring states?
Where?
Of Abia. Of Anambra. I'm asking.
Where else? How did TOG come? For example, TOG, how did it come on board? There were others who contested with him, like Ikechi Emenike who contested with him. Ikechi would have won. And actually, he said
what
he claimed he won.
sentiments threw up the
So let's leave all this zoning thing.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. I'm glad that you mentioned Abia. What sentiments threw up the current governor who is on the seat in Abia State?
Well, he had a godfather.
Governor Ikpeazu.
He had a godfather in the person of TOG.
Okay. Well, apparently, much as zoning is the first issue, which you say that you do not care where the president comes from. And,
Sure.
people say you're perfectly entitled to that. And there are lots of Nigerians who
It's my opinion.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And there are lots of Nigerians who feel that, indeed, it shouldn't really matter where the president comes from, that it should just be about competence. But there are some who also argue that this should also be about inclusion. You've also said in the course of this discussion that if this is about unity in terms of what the southern governors have been saying, then they should, toe the line that the federal government, is laying down. Part of the decisions that they reached yesterday is also that they support the collection of VAT at the level of the states. Mm-hmm. I don't know what your opinion is on that.
Yes. The VAT thing is proper. I want to support them on that because I'm supporting them based on the fact that in some parts of the country, for example, they destroy alcohol. It cannot say I don't like goat meat, but you use your mouth, you use your teeth to share it, which means you're also eating goat meat. If the VAT comes from alcohol, for example, VAT comes from alcohol, and you destroy alcohol in your state, and you want to benefit from that proceeds of alcohol, it's not proper.
Well,
so VAT is generated in the states and should be managed by the state that generated it.
I'm sorry, I got distracted for a minute, but I was going to ask you. Let's quickly flip this to Lagos. That's your first sentiment on VAT. Let's hear what our guest in Lagos has to say.
All right, well, Mr. Shitoku, well, I'm sure you heard a lot of what the Prophet said there about what he thinks about it. But, okay, well, just go ahead and give us your immediate response before we put in the next question.
Yes. Look, you must deal with the situation as it is, right? You know, the thing that ultimately led to this idea of zoning was that federalism had been destroyed, right? The power has been concentrated at the center. Were you to have a situation in which the kind of situation we had in the First Republic, where you have, you know, federalism, where regionalism reigned, there wouldn't be, you know, there won't be this that you need zoning to do, and the federal government was not in a position as it is today, right, to almost dictate to whatever it wants to the country. So it is the erosion of federalism that actually one of the reasons that led to this. Second, of course, is that the parliamentary system, you know, switched over to presidential system. Now the presidential system we are using reinforces the lopsidedness, the over-concentration of power at the center. Ideally, as I said, what the guest was saying was correct. If today Nigeria accedes to restructuring, in which power substantially revert back to the state or the region, there wouldn't be so much argument fighting over who becomes president and how. You know, so that's why I keep on emphasizing that you are responding to a concrete context. And of course, you know, he was talking about equity, dismissing it as equity. Should we also dismiss equity in its application to public service? Should we say, okay, if we want to recruit people into the civil service, it should be governed only by merit? Because you cannot reprobate and approbate in the same manner.
All right.
If you believe that, you know, politically, you know, is a non-issue, then go back to the public and apply the same principle across board.
It's our concluding moments now on this subject matter with both of you. But Mr. Shitokun, so in addition to you concluding your thoughts, so talk about this. I mean, when they say it's zoned to a particular area and then you have other people from other zones contesting, does that necessarily invalidate the fact that it's been zoned to that area? What does that mean politically?
Yeah, you know, well, we have a system, essentially a two-party system. There are two parties that are dominant. So if those two parties in principle, you know, accept and it's zoning, it will. But let me quickly correct that what was being said about Obasanjo is mere speculation. The guest was talking about it as if it was a fact, that the military was who installed Obasanjo as president. That's speculation. You cannot, I don't know, and nobody can speak factually to that. What obtained then was actually a situation in which heads zoning wings, tail zoning wings. And what I mean by that was both candidates of PDP and APP came from the Southwest. So whichever way you look at it, you are going to end up, you know, with a Yoruba man as president. And it was not Fala could have won. The notion about that was not people can have their preferences. But the fact that, but saying that Obasanjo was as if it is a fact, no, that is not a fact. That everybody has his own preferences. But more importantly, right, was the fact that the two candidates came to the Southwest, came from the Southwest. What is that under the compensation of zone? I mean, do you need to spell it out more than that? You know, so let's, as I said earlier on, look, you deal with situations in the countries, even if there was no zoning before, right? We can say today, right, that in view of the kind of crisis of nation building that we have today, right, let us use this instrument as an instrument of reconciliation. I've made the argument, if you want to go further, to narrow the argument further, you can say specifically, let the Southeast as it. And the reason, the argument behind that, the principle is nation building, right? You are incorporating, you are saying that, look, we belong together in this and we are going to show it. That, look, whatever. So it is not, as I said, you take into consideration the context, the specific context you are dealing with. He was talking about power politics. If you want anything, you go and go for it. Then if that is the case, we might as well remain, all the presidents of Nigeria might as well come from, from the north. Because if that is the argument you want to make. But again, there is also this principle that if you so much believe in merit as against equity or whatever it is, then also argue, should it now be limited? Shouldn't that principle be applied across board and say recruitment into the federal public service will be done strictly on the basis of merit? So this is the kind of inconsistency, and lack of inner logic that you find in this kind of argument. I'm not going to, it's like a goodwill offering, right? For instance, today, if the political elite of Nigeria can reach a consensus that, look, this, the Southeast, for many reasons, they have been marginalized or whatever in the power for a long time. In the spirit of brotherhood and goodwill, what can we do, right, to bring, Nigeria is running out of options, right, that it has to emphasize nation building, deliberate act of nation building. This is only we are talking about it is specifically an item that can do that.
All right, Mr.
Especially given the situation that we have today.
All right, we do thank you very much indeed for your perspectives this morning. Mr. Akin Oshitokun is a former Director General of News Agency of Nigeria and former PDP Presidential Campaign Council spokesperson. Thank you once again. Markwa?
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, we still have our guest here, Professor Ajumbe. Just before our closing moments with you, I do know that the governors have tried to stay away from the issue of alcohol in VAT because they say that it is just a very small component of VAT. Even the federal government acknowledges as much in terms of the bulk of where the VAT money comes from. A very tiny percentage of it comes from alcohol. If that's where the situation, and that is the situation, do you still think that states should collect? Because the federal government makes the argument that somehow it would seem that geographically speaking, and in terms of the activities on top of which VAT is collected, some of the states that are the highest grossing of VAT seem to be getting this advantage because of where they are.
What those states that may feel that the removal of, the states in the south being in charge of their VAT will affect their monthly income. What they will do is to look beyond the allocations from Abuja and see how to expand the economy of their states. There are many other things you can do. That nothing stops a state from anywhere that is producing, for example, palm oil. Let me take my palm oil. From researching on the palm oil, what are the byproducts of palm oil? Having those companies and having those products produce and export and make money, or a state that produces rice, for example. There are other byproducts of rice. So it wouldn't depend on every month you rush Abuja for allocation. Every month rush Abuja for allocation. Look beyond the allocation to expand the economy of your state. That's what this VAT thing is going to. In fact, it is good. It's happening at this time, so that other states will wake up.
Okay. just quickly as we wrap up now, I just want you to, restate once again. What if there is now an agitation that the presidency be zoned to the north? Is this something you will support?
Be zoned to the north?
Yes.
I will not support it. I will not support it.
So you don't support zoning?
I don't support zoning. In fact, if I have the power, I will advise that the National Assembly should remove this zone 10. Let there not be Southeast zone, Northeast zone, North Central zone. Remove the zone 10. Let us be one Nigeria. And we think Nigeria. We believe in Nigeria. It is only when this is done. In fact, if it is possible for us to have one language, after all, English language is still growing. Getting from Igbo, Yoruba, have one language that is a national language. It will help us. So that let us not be thinking, I'm from Southeast, I'm from Northeast, I'm from North Central. We want one Nigeria. If we want Nigeria to be one, they should remove the issue of zone. After all, thank God the zone is not even the constitution of Nigeria. So I think it's illegal even to say zone. Southeast, Northeast, North Central, Northwest. I don't think it's in the constitution of Nigeria. Let us be one Nigeria. Leave the states and remove the zones.
It's a fine place to leave it. We have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Early this morning. Professor Vitalis Ajumbe is a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress and also former commissioner for information in Imo State. Also,